This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com and ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's my job to help you maximize revenue and eliminate chaos. I've got a great interview for you today with Tom Reber from the Contractor Fight podcast and ContractorFight.com. Here's what you're going to learn from Tom. Tom's going to share some of the biggest root cause problems that contractors deal with based on his experience. Tom's also going to talk about fear around selling and how you can deal with it. He's going to share his story. I asked Tom, what is one thing you believe that some people say is crazy? Getting your thinking right. You're going to get some strategies on how to become more disciplined, and you'll learn how clarity leads to success and the importance of owning your own crap. So this is a great interview. It was a pleasure to talk to Tom. I was on his podcast a few months ago, and you can check that out on the Contractor Fight podcast. I've got one thing I want to share with you before we get into that interview. Let me ask you a couple of questions about your construction business. Are you happy with the amount of time or money that your business is creating for you? Is your business a source of wealth or a source of stress and aggravation? Will you be happy if the next 12 months is just like the past 12 months? And the economy's strong right now, but what's going to happen when, not if, the economy slows down? If things aren't going well now in a strong economy, what's it going to be like when the economy slows down? Well, if you want to shift your business into a different gear and see some different results, I have something for you. I call it the Construction MBA Program, the Masters of Business Acceleration for Contractors. Here's what you're going to get from this online 6-week program. In a nutshell, more time, more money, less anxiety, less frustration. You're going to get clarity on the vision and the direction of your business. There's going to be less chaos in your business, which will free you up to work on your business instead of being stuck in it. You're going to have strategies and tools to help you beat anxiety and fear, or punch anxiety and fear in the face, as I like to say it. You're going to learn how to uncover the real root causes of the chaos in your business and how to eliminate that chaos with systems. You'll have the powerful tools to systematize your business and turn it into a well-oiled machine. And you'll know exactly how to build a healthy backlog of high-margin work, which is going to give you the freedom and the peace of mind that you're looking for. Here's what some other construction business owners said about their experience with this content. Barry said this: "My tank is full. I was hesitant to register, but there was something stirring inside me telling me that I needed to. I'm so glad I made the investment. It was everything I expected and more. I encourage you to sign up for the next training. You won't regret it." Thomas said, "Just starting to think right to left has been a huge lead domino. I'm starting to enjoy my job, and I haven't enjoyed my job in a long time. I see things unfolding, and I have hope now." Matt and Katiana said, "We're finally making the money we deserve to be making. Not only do our financials look better, but we are so much happier, motivated, and excited about the future of our business." If you are interested, you need to go to ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com/MBA to check out the Construction Masters of Business Acceleration, the Construction MBA program. But you need to hurry because enrollment is closing down soon. The course is going to start very soon in late January. So go lock in your spot for the Construction MBA program over at ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com/MBA. Now, without further ado, here is my interview with Tom Reber from the Contractor Fight. All right, Tom Reber, thanks for being on the podcast, man. How's it going?
Hey, it's great to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. You had me on your podcast sometime in the past couple of months. So I'm actually going through this effort of doing some cross-pollination between folks in the industry. And so I'm glad you made yourself available and are willing to invest the time to share. So we'll get into your story in a little bit, but one of the things I want to start with is I'm a big root cause kind of a guy, and you've got the benefit of talking to and working with a lot of contractors, and I'm curious, what are some of the real underlying, well, maybe one, let's start with one. What is one underlying root cause problem that a lot of contractors have that they may not really even be aware of?
Oh, man, that's, to me, that's an easy one because right out of the gate, everybody I talk to, everyone I work with, it simply comes down to, will you look in the mirror and own your own crap? 100% hands down is the number one issue that I see that holds back a contractor, whether he's a $200,000 a year company or a $20 million a year company that I've worked with. It 100% always comes back to, you got to tell yourself the truth. You got to quit BSing yourself. And it all starts at the top with the leadership of really understanding where you're at, why you're there, and having that commitment to really change things.
Yeah, I've seen a quote where it's something along the lines of, the only people who really change are the ones who get tired of their own bullshit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what is that? What brings, can a person bring themselves to that point where they look in the mirror and they own it? Can they do that intentionally? Or I know some people get there because of circumstances, but let's talk about that. How can somebody own their crap intentionally before they hit rock bottom?
Unfortunately, so many of us, and I was one of these guys, you think you're different. You think you're not going to make the same mistakes that other guys that are older and wiser have shared with you. Hey, don't do that. I remember this job I took on years ago. I was a young painting contractor, and everybody in town said, "Don't take this job on. Don't work for this guy." And I'm like, "Oh, I know better, right?" And I ended up getting killed on the thing. I mean, it was a terrible project and all this other stuff. Lost a ton of money, but at the same time, learned a ton. Now, had I been a little more humble, I think had I been around the right community of people, I think community is so important. I think having winners surround you, and when you're hanging out with them and you're having conversations, you rub off on one another. We become the average of the 5 people that we hang out with. And so I think one of the ways you can avoid it without it getting too bad right out of the gate is being really picky about who you hang with. Stop hanging around with guys that are broke. Stop hanging around guys that can't seem to keep a team together, and that they're in the same spot in their business or in their life year in and year out. I'd look for a group of new friends right out of the gate to help me, launch a preemptive strike on my own crap, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And there's definitely a lot of negativity out there too. I'll get every once in a while, I'll get these guys on Facebook who they'll make some jaded comments, and you can just tell that every problem they have is somebody else's fault, and nothing's ever good enough. It's not their fault. It's like and you're the same way. You post positive, encouraging things like, come on, they're motivational, and you see these guys that they're victims, and they just, no amount of information is going to help them because they're a victim of their circumstances. So what do you, if somebody comes to you, what's your process for helping them to own their crap? I'm assuming people don't come to you and say, "Tom, I just need to own my bullshit." And I know that, but I'm not doing it. Can you help me do that? It's probably some other problem, but the root cause is they're not owning it, right? So what does your process look like for taking somebody down that road?
It starts with, understanding somebody's story. I mean, so for instance, I rode the short bus for a couple years in grade school, and I literally rode, we used to call it the Twinkie bus, the little thing would pull up and you'd ride it in there. And so for years, I'm 49 right now, Todd, and I had probably 38 to 40 years of my life I thought I was stupid. And I thought I was stupid because I spent a couple years in a special education class. I remember like it was yesterday what it was like getting off that bus in front of the school for the first time. And all my friends were on the playground, yet I wasn't allowed to go on the playground with them. I had to get off this bus and go into this classroom. Had a lot of emotional problems, had a lot of divorce and family problems and things like that. And for whatever reason, they thought it was best that I got more one-on-one attention. So they put me in this class. And long story short, this was part of my story that made me truly believe deep down at my DNA level that I wasn't smart. I wasn't capable of competing with people on an intellectual level. And I had a lot of hard years of, I just had a lot of struggle of not putting myself out there, putting myself in situations where I would be exposed with what I thought was my lack of intelligence. And so this went on for decades. And even though I had accomplished a lot of things in business, I decorated, U.S. Marine, a lot of things, athlete, football coach, all these things. But I always had this nagging thing in the back of my mind, in my heart, that was telling me that I was stupid. And so I really want to get, when somebody says to me, I'm not good at marketing my business, or I'm not good at selling, and they say that's their crap. I'm like, that's not your crap. That's a symptom of your crap. Okay. The symptom of my crap was I had what was, if I were to say I was a bad salesperson a number of years ago, it's because I didn't have the confidence, and I didn't have the confidence because deep down I believed I was stupid. So I really try to get first to that root thing, that bullshit story that we tell ourselves that is deep down nagging at us. And then we look at how we can go toe to toe with that thing. Because I believe the faster that we can close the gap between the thing we're afraid of and where we're at right now, the faster that you're going to have some progress and some wins that are going to be lasting in your life and in your business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think a lot of people might be surprised to hear that there's some fear at the root of this, and a lot of their problems are just based on fear. But it's definitely, it's helpful, but it's probably almost imperative to have somebody else help you with this process, because a lot of this stuff is in your blind spot, right? And you are hiding it, you're hiding from it. And the nature of a blind spot is you can't see it. So it goes back to the community and having somebody really lead you through this process to expose it. Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And, so for me, I'll give you a real life example here, dealing with the fear and things like that. We're all afraid of something deep down. I don't care who you are. And I had this fear that I was stupid. So a number of years ago, it was probably 8 or 9 years ago now, something like that. I'd been invited to go to be part of this event and be a speaker, and it was an event that was held in Cabo every year. A buddy of mine invited me to come 2 or 3 years in a row, and 2 or 3 years in a row I said no. I made some excuse of why I didn't want to go, but the real reason was this was a nonprofit event, and it was put on by some really impressive people, and I knew that the audience they were all part of this certain fraternity, this college. So it was a college fraternity leadership event. And I'm like, man, there's going to be all these, smart people there that are in college. Like, so you see how my I'm stupid crap is like holding me back from going to this event. I had this great opportunity to go have an impact. And then one day I just woke up, the next year he asked me to go, and I'm like, man, if I don't go toe to toe with this thing that's bothering me, I'm never going to change. So I decided to run into the punch, and I said, I'm never going to shake this I'm stupid thing unless I go toe to toe with it. So I chose to go down there, and it was one of the turning points in my life and in my career. And I'll spare you all the details, but at the end of the event, I'm sitting at this table. There's about 12 guys and me. It's the board of directors that puts this thing on. And listen, we're talking about the guy who created Ticketmaster. We're talking about a billionaire in the oil industry. I mean, there's some impressive people, and then there's me. And at the end of the meeting, I'm like, man, I'm going to get out of here. They're not going to ask me anything, which is cool. This guy says to me, hey, Tom, this is your first time at the event. What do you think we should do with marketing in the event in the future, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember I spoke for between 45 seconds and 1 minute. I shared what I thought. I shared what I would do if I were them, blah, blah, blah. And the guy who runs this thing, the billionaire guy, looks at his assistant and he says, hey, do we have the capability to implement everything he just said? And the guy goes, yeah. He goes, all right, let's do it. Meeting adjourned. They all got up, walked out, left the room, and I'm sitting there by myself. This big round table holds like 10 or 12 people. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? I went outside, I took my phone, and I texted my wife. And Todd, listen, this is where I get sappy, man. I had tears in my eyes, and I texted my wife, and I said, and it just said, I'm not stupid. Because I finally, I was in an environment that I believed that I could never run with. Does that make sense? I was around a group of guys that I didn't feel that I lived up to because I didn't have this impressive educational background and all these letters behind my name. You look at the bios on the walls. Theirs were 3 pages. Mine was 3 sentences. And yet, because I chose to go toe to toe with the thing that scared me the most, deep down, it was probably the biggest growth moment in my life, and many other great things have happened since that. I've got amazing relationship, making a ton more money, having way more of an impact I ever would have had I not chose to go toe to toe with the thing I was afraid of.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of a story of a guy that was in a group I was teaching several years ago, and somehow we were talking about fear, and he said, man, I've just got this crippling fear of spiders. I hate spiders. They scare me to death. And he said, so I bought a tarantula. Mm-hmm. And he said, I brought the tarantula home, and I got it out, and I let that thing crawl around on me with its hairy legs, because he just got sick of being afraid. And you're exactly right. There's only one way to get over fear, and it's not information. It's you got to buy the tarantula. You got to go toe to toe with it. And if you're scared of flying, you're never going to get over that fear of thinking about it, reading about it, doing positive affirmations. You're going to have to get on a plane, and you're going to have to do it a few times to get over it. So yeah, that's great advice. Where else do you think fear? Well, I know one specific area I wanted to talk about. How does fear show up in the selling process for contractors? How does that show up when it's maybe not so obvious?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things we teach in our sales academy is that, and where this fear shows up is, as a contractor, the average contractor thinks, okay, my phone rings, and I got to go out and I got to play the customer's game, okay, because the customer's in control. And most contractors are afraid that they're not in control. Like, I got to go out on the customer's terms and meet with them on their terms and play their game, and they get to lie to me, and they get to avoid me, and when I try to follow up, and they get to keep their budget a secret, and all these things. And we think that we can't stand up and have some dignity and have some self-respect. And I see a lot of guys cave with that, where they have this fear that the customer's really in control, when it couldn't be further from the truth. You, as the professional, the expert, the guy they picked up the phone to call, you're the one that's in charge. And so you can't be afraid of taking control of that sales process. But we're afraid because we're like, man, I got to eat, right? I got my family counting on me and all this other stuff. So then we tap dance, we play this stupid game that I see so many guys play, that ends up robbing time from their family, taking money out of their pocket, and it doesn't do jack for your confidence as just a man to begin with, when you're giving away all that control.
Yeah, one thing that doesn't make sense to me, and I've been guilty of it in the past, is logically I know that selling is the key to avoiding failure, right? You gotta sell, and you gotta do the work. But there's this fear. The fear of failure prevents us from even trying, right? So this fear of poverty, it's completely irrational. But I'm curious, have you seen this with other people, and have you experienced this where it's like, I know I need to sell, but there's this fear that it's not going to work out, so I avoid doing the thing that is going to prevent me from failing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And to me, it's a confidence issue. One of the things, and I think I heard it somewhere else. I'm not crediting myself. I probably ripped it off somewhere in the last 20 years. But market like your next meal depends on it, right? But sell like you're independently wealthy. All right. Market like every day, 24/7. I believe there's two things a contractor should be doing 24/7, 365, and that's marketing and hiring. You're always looking to upgrade your people, find the winners, and bring them onto your team. And you're always looking to market your business because without leads, you can't sell. And if you don't have sales, you have no air and you're dead, right? Oxygen's gone. So market like you're desperate, like you're starving, but sell like you don't need it. And that's a confidence thing where, and I believe that confidence is rooted in, what we've talked about a little bit about owning your crap, that, as long as you can point to outside circumstances, like as long as you can blame the economy or your employees or the quality of the leads and all that other crap, you're never going to be as confident as you can if you were to just own your crap and go, man, this is on me. I mean, listen, I coach high school football and we lost a game and our kids made a comment about the officials and the officials screwed us and all this other stuff. And I said, well, how about we just play and execute to the point, do our jobs the way that we need to do our jobs and make the officials irrelevant. Let's do our job first. Let's own our responsibility here and never put the game in the officials' hands. And so kind of that same thinking where when you really own your crap and you understand that as the leader of my business, I'm 100% responsible. What I love about that is you're no longer a victim. And when you're no longer a victim, you walk a little taller, you speak a little bolder. So there's that half. And the other half of the confidence thing is knowing your numbers. When you really know what it costs you to produce a job, to send a crew out for a day, to send a guy to somebody's house for an hour, whatever it might be, when you have a solid understanding of your numbers, it's a lot easier to stand firm and know what you need to charge. So, and then the confidence thing, man, is contagious. People want to be around confident people. Like if you have a knee issue and you call the knee doctor, man, I want the guy who's going to take control of the process. Hey, Todd, this is what we're going to do. And this is how it's going to happen. And then you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to pee in this cup. And then for 3 days, you're going to track, when you're feeling pain in your ear. I don't know what they do, right? But they're going to tell you what to do because they're the expert, and they're going to look you in the eye, and you're going to be like, all right, man, I trust this guy. He's like a fighter pilot. They're cocky as crap, and they put the bomb where they want the bomb. And so that's the type of person that I believe deep down that most consumers and potential clients, prospects, whatever you want to call them, they want to work with somebody who's like Tom Cruise in Top Gun.
Right. Yeah, they want somebody to lead the process. That's why they're hiring a contractor. Is they don't want somebody to micromanage. And I think some people bitch and moan because their clients are micromanaging them. They feel like, but it's because the customer doesn't have the confidence. I've been the customer. I've been the owner's rep with the contractor I didn't have confidence in. And that's why I had to step in. That's why I had to micromanage, is because I thought these guys don't have it. They don't have control of this project. They're not leading the project. So that's great advice. Lead
that's a trust
your
thing.
Customers.
Yeah. That's a trust thing, right? Like, everything you do or don't do sends a message and tells a story to your client. And so if I go to a remodeler's website and it's a piece of crap website, I'm not going to have a lot of trust in this guy, But if I go to a guy's website and it's kick butt, and then I fill out a form and they call me back like right away, and then they show up, to meet me or call me or whatever their sales process is, and they honor that, every one of those transactions builds trust and makes price and all those other things less relevant. So I think the sales process is a much bigger animal than I think a lot of us initially give it credit for.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people think the sales process begins when they submit the estimate, but that value creation starts from the very first interaction and building trust, building relationship from the very first, the first contact. Yeah, absolutely. So you talk a lot about discipline. What does that look like? What does that look like for a business owner? What are some of the problems or the symptoms that you see people dealing with that can be solved by simple discipline?
God, the word discipline in a nutshell somewhere in there means this is this is a pattern of behavior that I choose to follow, right? Or rules of governing my activity. To me, that's what discipline is. And because there's an end result, there's something that I want on the other end of it. In short, it means I'm going to do the stuff that needs to be done when it needs to be done. And I would say 99% of contractors know exactly what they need to do. They're just choosing to not get the crap done that's sitting before them, or they're spending their time on all the things that aren't going to move the ball forward the way they want to, because they don't understand what their role is in the company. They don't understand where their best energy and talents need to be spent. They're too afraid to let things go. And so discipline for me has always started with, I got to have some non-negotiables, you know? So I'll give you an example. One of the things that we teach is one non-negotiable that we have is we will never go to a prospect's property without following our phone pre-qualification process. Okay, and it's a very specific thing, and I'm going to have the discipline to do that. See, that means when the phone rings and the client says, "Hey, my neighbor used you, and you're awesome, and we want you to come paint our house," it means we don't drop what we're doing and run out there. It means we say, "No, this is my non-negotiable. I'm going to follow my process. I'm going to follow my system, because every time I don't, I'm giving away my control." And so, we got to be consistent, man. I mean, consistency over time wins, and that's another thing. I guess if I could go back and answer your question, where guys have some root problems, it's they're choosing to not live a life of discipline. And that could be, I wake up in the morning, dude, before I take a leak, before I make coffee, my feet hit the floor and I make my bed. Like, that's what I do, Then I go drink a glass of water, then I do some reading, because I understand, what my non-negotiables are. And so I would encourage guys to really commit to that. Jocko, right? The SEAL guy, he's got that book, Discipline Equals Freedom. It's so true. When you follow that process, when you are disciplined about things, what you're basically saying is, I understand what's important. I understand what my priorities are, and I'm not letting anybody knock me off of that.
Yeah. I love it. I think that the way that discipline shows up in a business is when things are great, when things are busy, people stop they stop doing business development, and because they're busy, or they avoid tough conversations when tough conversations need to be had. They don't follow their process, like you said. There are so many people I talk to who say, yeah, we have policies and procedures and we have these step-by-step processes, but we just don't follow them. And it just comes down to discipline. A lot of it is just simple doing what you don't want to do. And that is tough. Like I grew up on a farm, so as a kid,
you get it.
doing stuff like, it's about, we're coming up on Christmas or Thanksgiving and Christmas season right now. And I hated it when I was a kid, getting up at 5:30 in the morning on Thanksgiving Day to go milk cows and do other stuff like that. But or go out and work for 16 hours doing something that it just sucks. But if there's one thing I learned, it's how to do something well that you don't like, and that is just discipline. So how would you, if somebody says, yeah, that's me, I suck at discipline, how would you tell them to get started improving their discipline? Should they try to run a marathon? Should they try to do something really small? Should they read a book? Where would you tell people to get started if they want to improve their discipline?
Oh, well, it's hands down, it's the word clarity. It's funny. I have some business partners in some of our programs and in our Contractor Sales Academy and stuff. And every time we have a meeting, every time we get together and do a quarterly thing, every time we're going to plan an event or whatever it is, I'm the guy that's going, okay, before we start this thing, what are we trying to accomplish? And so I believe clarity is one of the two words that will always lead to success in your business. But it's one of the things that we often blow off. So what I mean by that is, so many of us set goals in our business, and then we plan these actions that we're supposed to be disciplined on when we've never really given a lot of thought to the goal that we set. Is that really what I want? So I this guy called me a while back. He's like, I want to grow a $5 million business. And I go, okay, great. Why? And, getting to the why took quite a while, but it basically came down to the fact that he wanted to pay himself $200,000 a year. I said, okay, so you can't pay yourself $200,000 a year unless you have a $5 million business? That doesn't make sense to me. So what do you really want? Do you really want the $5 million and everything that comes with that, or do you want $200,000 a year? You see the difference? And I know you do, because you're a process guy, man. You think like this. And so if you want to be more disciplined, you got to get more clear, because the clearer you get, the stronger your why becomes, and the easier it is to implement the crap that needs to be done. The other side of this is know what your sweet spot is. Know what you're really good at. So in my company right now, in the Contractor Fight, if it has anything to do with anything administrative, I don't do it. Like, I literally open my calendar. I look at my calendar the night before, and I go, okay, where am I showing up tomorrow? Because if it's up to me to get it on the calendar, if it's up to me to schedule things, if it's up to me to send the invoice and all these other things, that is not my sweet spot. I screw it up 100% of the time. So I've built a team around me. I've invested a lot of time, a lot of money building a team around me that is really good at all those things that I suck at, the things that you were saying, like, I don't enjoy doing. Those things still need to be done. But I'd rather think who can do this rather than how can I do this. And so I would encourage people, look at all the things you suck at, get rid of them, focus on the one or two things that you do really well in your business. It might be business development, it might be creating content, it might be just selling or whatever it might be, and just do that. You're going to be so much happier. You're going to get out of the way of all these other people in your business that can now do their jobs, and then you're going to scale your business. I had Jerry Nelson, one of the co-founders of Ticketmaster. Amazing guy. I spent a number of days down at his place and some things like that. And he, one day I asked him, I said, hey, when did your businesses really start to grow and flourish and stuff? He's had over like 44 businesses and stuff. And without hesitation, he goes, when I learned to get out of my own way. When I got out of the way, everything exploded. And I think that also, that holds contractors back as well, is, we're afraid to let somebody else swing the hammer or do something because our ego gets in the way. And, listen, so back to the clarity, if the clarity thing, if you like working in the field, if you like building the thing, that's fine. Then hire somebody to run the office, hire somebody to sell, and you build your business around the thing that you really want. Don't just play the game that you think everybody's got to play in the business world of, I got to get out of the field and put the tool belt away and all this other stuff, or I'm not a real owner. I think that's BS. I think, you started the business, build it to serve you, not you serving it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's a lot of mindset issues, these things that are in people's blind spots, things they believe to be true. I would call them limiting beliefs. Like, they believe that in order to be a legitimate owner, you have to sit behind a desk or whatever. Mm-hmm. And if you hate that, then if that's what you believe, all right, so here's how I see this working. If you believe that to be a legitimate owner, you have to do something that you hate and that you think you're not good at and you're going to avoid, then subconsciously you will do all sorts of creative things to avoid that situation, and you will not succeed. So it's much more important to look. I tell people, hey, look, if you're looking around and you see a lot of people doing the same thing you are, then you're probably going the wrong direction, because most of those other people, they're looking around at what everybody else is doing. So you've got this crowd of people looking at each other saying, oh, we must be going in the right direction because everybody else is doing the same thing. And it's not effective, whether it's culture, marketing, the type of work you're doing, how you're running your business. Don't look at how other people are doing it. They are terrible, terrible examples. Speaking of mindset, you talk a lot about helping people to get their thinking right. What does that look like?
I sound like a broken record here, but it comes back to the two things we've talked about. It's that clarity piece, and it's owning your crap. And then making a decision. And then it's choosing. Am I going to truly commit to dealing with the crap that I say that I really want? Meaning, I don't mean crap in a bad way. I meant like, what do I really want? What do I want my life to look like? And if I'm not getting that thing, am I going to tell myself the truth? I mean, all progress starts with the truth. And we spend so much time avoiding the truth. And so you can't bypass that. And then I look at this whole mindset piece around you gotta set yourself up for success. And, at the top of this interview, I talked a lot about how important it is to hang around the right people. I am really, really picky about who gets into my inner circle. And I don't mean that in like some arrogant way. You know what I mean? I mean, like, I'm going to choose to invite people into my world that are positive, that are winning, that are successful. And what I mean by successful is you could be totally broke financially, but you can still be successful because you're making progress, because it's a mindset thing. And I want to hang around people that have a desire to grow. They hate mediocrity. They're going to tell me the truth. They're going to call me higher. I think who you hang around with will absolutely help you win that inner battle that you have in your mind every day that, hey, I'm stupid, I'm no good with money, or your discipline issues and things like that. I think we spend too much time separating ourselves from people. And so for me personally and the people that I've worked with, I encourage them to actually commit to growing stronger relationships, and that ends up helping a lot with the mindset issues that they have. I mean, like you said, we could read all the fun hang in there cat memes on Facebook and hang the posters in our office, and we could write in our little gratitude journal every morning, or all these other hacks that everyone in the world talks about. But just by hanging around people that want to get better is so much of an encouragement to me that it's one of my priorities. I make time to develop really good relationships with other guys that, and I don't mean just for business, but I just mean in general. Like, I want to be around people that are winners, that are trying to have an impact in the world, that are trying to, be a better employer and grow their team, or whatever you want to talk about, like be healthier and all this other crap. It's a lot easier to be in shape when you're hanging out at a gym, than it is when you're sitting in a bar or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we lower our expectations for the people around us because we want to be the thinnest of the fat guys, right? Or we want to be the smartest,
the tallest midget.
Yeah, that's right. We want to be the smartest guy at the mediocre table, but that's not doing any good, right? I mean, go get yourself into situations where, some of the biggest growth opportunities I've had have been when I put myself into a situation where I was scared. Like, I don't know if I've got the chops for this. And I figured it out, and it made me better. When you were talking about that, it reminded me of a quote from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. He talks about mind control. And he says one of the best methods of mind control is to have a definite plan, make a definite decision, and have something to work on. Because I think a lot of people, here's what I found. This was true in my life. For a long time, I thought success was based on just having the right idea. So I would get an idea and I would try it for a while, and then since I thought that I had to find the right idea, and then it was all about the right idea, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it was into it, if things weren't working out, I thought, it's not the right idea. timing's not right, whatever. Then I would jump to something else. Well, what I figured out a couple of years ago, I did a self-assessment. I'm like, Todd, dude, I looked back over my history over the past 20, 25 years, and I could see where I would just jump from thing to thing looking for this home run or this great idea. And I read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, changed my life. And I realized that it's not about the idea, that really ideas are a dime a dozen. It's all about execution. So what changed my life a couple of years ago was I made a decision about what the outcome was going to be, what my life was going to be like. And you talked about clarity. And I got really clear about what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted my finances to look like, what I wanted my health to be like, what I wanted my mindset to be like. And then I set what Jim Collins would call, I think, big, hairy, audacious goals.
Right.
I would hack into this, if you've got a project that's got to get done or you've got a deadline, somehow you figure out how to do it. So one of the hacks I figured out is I'll commit to something and make it public, not knowing how I'm going to do it, and then force myself to do it to fight procrastination. And that has been, the combination of those things have really changed my life. And I feel so much better. My mindset is so much better since I realized it's all about the decision and then discipline. So make a decision. A decision followed by disciplined action is really the key to success. You really can't lose. It's just a matter of if, not when. Or it's a matter of when, not if you are disciplined about the decision that you've made. Yeah.
That's awesome, because I was thinking about that earlier. Ideas are plentiful and the execution is pretty rare. And I think part of the reason that the execution is rare is we live in a world where we get everything we want right now. Mm-hmm. The microwave oven's been around for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like, you cook a turkey pot pie in that thing in 6 minutes. Or the remote control, or our smartphones, and you can literally talk into this box and get an answer for something. Mm-hmm. And I think we forget that the things that we really want are going to take some time. They're going to take a little bit of a grind. And I always think about water. Water wins over the rock every time. Mm-hmm. Because it keeps showing up. Day in, day out, the water glides over the rock, and you don't see a lot of change, but 25 years later, the rock is smaller, or there's a groove worn into it, or whatever it is. And so I try to encourage myself and others, just be like water. Keep showing up, keep chipping away at this thing. Or it's like if you have a big boulder sitting in your backyard and you say, I'm going to go break that thing, and you grab your sledgehammer, and it's a big, 3,000-pound boulder in your backyard, and you hit it. Nothing's going to happen. But if you go out there every morning, first thing of the day, and hit that damn thing, over time, that thing's going to crumble, because every time you hit it, there's something happening under the surface that you don't see. Mm-hmm. And that's what reaching our goals is like. But that's where the clarity comes in. Like, I don't want to waste 3 years, 3 days, 30 years, or whatever, hitting the wrong boulder.
Right.
You know what I mean? So really get super clear of what you want. I mean, I've worked with people that had their own business, had a $2 million business. We did this clarity stuff. They're like, screw this. I'm selling my business, and I'm going to go coach, be a golf teacher. Because that's the thing that I really want. And that's okay. That's success. Success is, are you getting what you want? And I don't mean in a selfish, pouty way. But am I living the life that I want? Am I developing the relationships that I really want? Am I around my kids? I mean, this clarity thing, man, your calendar is going to reveal whether you have clarity or not. Your checkbook's going to reveal whether you have clarity or not. I don't know, man. I can go on this thing, and I don't want to be redundant here, but
no, I'm with you. You're a football coach, right? So there's this football coach down in the South. A few people have heard of Nick Saban. Little team, Alabama.
A couple times.
They've won a few games over the past few years. Maybe more of a dynasty than a small football program. But one of the things I love that Nick Saban says is he talks about the process. And he tells his guys, don't look at the scoreboard. You embrace the process, because it's the process that's going to make you better. And what I've learned is that I was guilty of looking for shortcuts 20 years ago. I always wanted to get to the next thing. I wanted to have my own business, then I wanted to have a business of a certain size, and I wanted to get to a certain level, and I was always trying to get to the next thing, and I was looking for shortcuts. And what I've realized is that the process of getting from point A to point B prepares you to keep and to handle what's at point B. So there are probably people listening here who like, I want to be a CEO of a company. Well, listen, if somebody were to magically just grant you that position, it wouldn't last, because you didn't go through the process. And there are people who want to own a business, and maybe there's some shortcuts you could take to get there, but the process is your friend. You may be able to get there by skipping the process, but by going through the process, that's what's going to allow you to handle what's on the other side of that thing. So I encourage people, embrace the process. Look at the grind, as you called it. The grind, the process, it's your friend. It's making you better. And that's really where the game is won. It's in the process.
Dude, you brought up Nick Saban, and one of my, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact quote, but he basically says, people have this illusion that you have choices. And he's like, but if you want to be good, you have no choices. It takes what it takes. Right? You need to lift. You need to get faster. You need to do the job in the classroom, if you're a football player, right? You got to stay out of trouble in the community. You got to get enough rest. Like there is no, that's just what it takes. And so for the contractor who wants to have a successful business, a successful life, a business that, doesn't run him, it takes what it takes. And that means you're going to have to at some point get really clear. You're going to have to at some point embrace the fact that as the leader, you got to focus on building the right culture here, because that culture is going to drive everything else. You're going to have to at some point understand that I have to take control of this sales process. I'm going to, part of the process is I need to job cost. I got to track my leads. Those things are just non-negotiables, because the alternative is you wake up 15, 20, 40 years from now having owned this business and you don't have shit to show for it. Because you've been on this job cycle the whole time. You've never gotten to that next level because you refuse to embrace the process. I mean, listen, I have a client I'm working with, man. I've been working with him for about, it's got to be 3.5, almost 4 years now. And the first year they came to me, it was, I want to say they did around 2 million, 2.1, and they had a $70,000 net profit. All right. By the end of the second year, or by the end of the first year, it was about 250,000, give or take 10 grand. It was right in that neighborhood. And the only thing that we focused on was gross profit. So let's just focus on your gross profit. Let's just job cost every project. That was part of the process. And then year two, we got into, because that was the low hanging fruit. Now we did some other things in this and that, but then year two, it was all about, okay, we're going to take this next step of the process in our company, and we're going to work on developing Joe here and Dan and Scott into being better leaders out in the field and some other things like that. So you get it. There's not a one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter thing, but. And so day in and day out, they focused on they just focused on job costing. Every day the crew leaders had to just type in, hey, the job was bid for 100. I've used 38 hours so far. Looks like I'm on track to finish on time. That one little action put another couple $100,000 in their pocket. Okay? Because that's just part of the process. You can't attack everything at once. Yeah. So I have a mastermind group that's called the One Nail, and it's all about execution, because the last thing we want to do is be like a carpenter running around knocking in 100 nails a day halfway. We want to identify the things in our business that are worth doing, the nails that are worth hitting in, and we want to pound that sucker in, and I want to make sure that thing's in before I move on to the next nail. All right. And so when we Um, you know, so back to the guy that put another couple $100,000 in his pocket. We identified that the most important nail to hit in right now was that gross profit nail, that job costing nail. Just going, let's just focus on this and hammer it in until it becomes second nature in our company. Because this ties back to there are 4 stages to learning a new skill. Okay, the first is, so just imagine you're learning guitar. Okay, and you pick up the guitar. Let's say you don't even pick up the guitar yet. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. You suck and you don't know it. Okay. The second stage of learning is conscious incompetence, where, man, now I'm picking this guitar up and I realize I'm really no good at this thing. That's a lot of people in the sales academy that come through. They realize, like, man, now that my eyes have been opened here a little bit, I realize that I'm not very good at sales or whatever. Then the third level is conscious competence, where I can be good at this and proficient, but I really have to try. And then the final level of learning a new skill is unconscious competence. That's the guy on stage who's shredding a guitar solo while he's having a conversation with the sound man. Okay? Like, it's become so part of who he is because he's put the time in. And so that's why we really push for this one nail thing. Like, hit this thing in that's important, that's going to move the needle fast in your business, that everybody can get on board with, so it becomes a habit in the company. And, for some, it could be just having I know you'll get excited about this because you're the process guy, right? Is having that weekly operations meeting, right? Where we all get on the same page, just something that simple, and unifying the team and having a game plan moving forward. That one thing right there, I've seen put another 15% of gross profit into a company literally within 30 days. So got to identify the right nail, man. Many of us business owners, contractors are running around and we're half-assing a bunch of nails instead of knocking in the ones all the way that matter.
Yeah, definitely. I call them lead dominoes with my clients. Like, let's find the thing that you can tackle that will either make other problems irrelevant, make them go away, or will solve them in the process. And it's different for everybody. I wish it was cookie cutter, but what I think a lot of people believe they have what I call silver bullet syndrome. They're like, there's a silver bullet out there, and if I just do this one thing, it's going to solve all my problems. Yeah. And if there is a silver bullet, it's execution and implementation. I have clients who have very simple businesses. I have some who have very large, complex businesses, but it really doesn't have much to do with the size or the complexity of the problem. The leading indicator of somebody being successful is, are they going to execute? And I assume it's the same way with you. You have great ideas, but you're not going to actually go implement these solutions and answer phone calls and do cost coding and that kind of stuff. We both coach contractors, and we're like hunting guides, right? I could put you on the moose, but I can't pull the trigger for you. And it just comes down to discipline and execution.
Ain't that the truth? Well, here's the other thing. Like, you might not know, I've seen this a lot. We'll just talk about like job costing. A lot of guys don't see why it matters until they've been implementing it for a while, right? And then when they can look at a spreadsheet that's got 8, 10, 12, 30 projects in front of them, then the numbers, it was always taught to me, the numbers tell a story. But until you've gone through hey, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to trust my coach or my mentor or whatever. I'm going to trust the process. Back to what you said, man, trust the process. So somebody that's listening to this right now, if Todd's telling you to frickin' job cost or have a meeting or whatever it is, just trust the process, because you don't know what you don't know. And I guarantee you that you're not telling somebody to do something that's not going to have a positive net outcome down the road, but you got to have enough data to tell the story. And what's the pattern that you see here? And it'd be like, God, man, every project under $15,000, we get our butts kicked. or geez, every job that we do in this zip code, we make a killing, or whatever it might be. Or you want to get real tricky, you start job costing by crew leader or foreman now. God, every time Tony does a job that's over 300 man hours, we crush it. So that was something in my business years ago, and I was like, well, geez, every time I get a project that's going to be, I know it's going to be over 300 hours, I'm going to have Tony help me bid the thing, and so that we can crush it together. But you can't have all that if you don't have the data, and you don't, so I get so much pushback on tracking, man. I don't know about you, but like, I don't have time to track. I don't have time. I'm like, dude, then apparently you don't have time to cash checks. Because it's don't get me worked up on the whole tracking thing. I'll start some my crap here.
Yeah, I don't have time to track. I don't have time to put processes in place. It's like saying the cancer is so bad I can't go take my chemo.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're too sick to take the medicine. Like you got into a bad situation, and it's going to be hard to get out of. But you're sure as hell not going to get out of it doing the same thing you did to get into it.
Well, think of the habits that get you into a bad situation,
mm-hmm.
right? It's not tracking, not understanding your numbers, not taking control of the sales process, not having a weekly operations meeting, not having some accountability or whatever it might be in your business. Well, do the opposite.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I like the idea of just pick one nail and start with something. Don't think you have to, or don't even think you can fix everything at once. It didn't all get screwed up at one time, and just start. As I said, I look for lead dominoes, do an 80-20 analysis. What's the thing that you can spend 20% of your energy on that's going to give you 80% of the outcome? And then start with that one. When you get that one knocked out, go to the next one. Just continue doing that, and I guarantee if you do that for a few months, you'll be amazed at the chaos you're going to eliminate, how much better you're going to feel, and probably how much better your bottom line looks. So, well, listen, we are running up against time here, Tom. I'm sure we could talk for a long time. You've got an audience of construction business owners and leaders here who are listening. If you had a couple of minutes to share a message with them, something that you think that they really need to hear that's not being talked about enough, or you think would do them some good, what would that be?
Oh man, it's why I created the Contractor Fight to begin with, and it's to really bring respect back to the trades. We're in control of that. For decades, people have been guiding people away from the trades, and making it like, oh, you're less than if you're going to go into the trades. You should learn a trade because it's a good fallback option, right? And all this other crap that we've heard through the years. When I believe we are responsible for bringing the respect and dignity back, because the guys that are doing it right have amazing lives, amazing businesses, great relationships, and things like that. And so it all starts with looking in the mirror and going, all right, I'm going to respect myself. I'm going to be the type of man or woman that I truly want to be, and I'm going to carry that into my company, because that's going to set the tone of the culture that you're going to have in your company, and that's going to trickle down and lead to a bunch of other good stuff. Is when you finally look in the mirror and go, man, I'm in control of this thing, and I'm going to build a company that's worthy of respect, that brings dignity back to my particular trade and the trades as a whole. That's what this fight's about, and the fight starts between your ears, man. And then it works into some of the other things that we've talked about. So I would encourage everybody listening to this, man. Don't buy the BS that's out there that we're not in control. Don't buy the BS that the trades aren't the place to be. We have a great opportunity, man. We're the backbone of the world here. We build crap, we fix crap. I mean, if we all went away tomorrow, what would happen? It's like, so embrace that. And there's so much opportunity, because on the other side of this, from the consumer side, they're dying to have respect-worthy companies to work with. My son just started a window cleaning business this week, man, here in Colorado Springs. He's 18 years old. He did his first job yesterday. He was all happy. I had to deliver the ladder for him and everything, Todd. It was so cool. And she wrote him a check for $60. All right. And he was beaming at the end of the day. He was there a couple hours, whatever. And I said to the I said to the woman, I said, hey, I really appreciate you giving him a shot. You're like his first paying customer. He's been practicing at our house and friends' houses and things like that. And dude, she was like, it's been so refreshing to work with somebody who wants to get out and work, who's going to be responsive, who's going to show up when they say, who's going to return phone calls and communicate well. Todd, the world is dying for guys to step up and run a business that's worthy of respect. So that's my message to him, man. That's why I encourage people to check out what we got going on. Yeah, absolutely. I tell business owners that if you don't want to grow your business, you're being selfish, because there are clients out there who are dealing with jackass contractors, and they need you to grow your business. And there are people working for those jackass contractors who would love to work with you. So if you really look in the mirror, if you don't want to grow your business, it's out of selfishness, because you don't think you've got it. You think you don't want the frustration, whatever, but it's selfish to not grow your business. Yeah, so we owe it to the world to get out there and grow successful businesses. So great stuff. Well, Tom, where can people go? I know you've got a podcast, you got a website, you got a lot of stuff out there for contractors. Where should people go if they want to learn more about you and find out about your stuff? Easy. Just go to thecontractorfight.com. Or just go to Google, type in The Contractor Fight, and you'll find us. Everything from the podcast to the YouTube channel and a bunch of other stuff. Perfect. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast, and this was a great conversation. So let me know if there's ever anything I can do for you, Tom. Likewise, I appreciate you having me, and appreciate all you're doing for the industry as well, bud. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Tom Reber from thecontractorfight.com and the Contractor Fight podcast. Make sure and go check out his podcast. You can find the episode that I was on the Contractor Fight podcast a few months ago. And don't forget, if you want to get different results in your business, if you want the next 12 months to be completely different from the last 12 months, if you want more time, more money, less anxiety, less stress, less frustration, then go check out the Construction MBA program. It kicks off soon. Go lock in your spot over at constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/MBA. Don't get left out. Go lock in your spot. constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/MBA. Thank you for the ratings and the reviews. Thanks for the emails. I appreciate hearing from you. And be sure and listen to the Contractor Fight podcast, and I will see you next time.